Welcome to The Kingdom Sleeps, the fantasy bedtime story decided by the roll of a dice. My name's Andrew, I'll be your story master for this evening.
And I'm Brandon, and I will be playing the role of Hiram.
Today, we will be starting a new story, Arc 3 of our journey in Sopros, with the character of Hiram played by Brandon. As you've said, thank you so much for joining us today.
A joy to be here, Andrew.
So as we are encountering a new character in the world of Sopros, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Hiram himself, who he is and what he's up to.
Sure, so Hiram is a rather accomplished, middle-aged Dwrgar designer for the Constructors Guild. He is in his mid to late 40s and has been working with the Constructors Guild for most of his life and has built quite a reputation for himself in that sphere. Nowadays, he finds himself kind of contract working for the Guardians Guild, where he tends to be working on Guardians Guild weapons and armors and technology there. But he maybe enjoys the more artistic side of the designing work that he does, but finds himself more and more on the technical side of Brightstone innovation.
Mm-hmm. Very intriguing character that I look forward to finding out more about in tonight's story. Just before we start, I'd like to say a huge thank you once again to all of our Patreons supporting us over there. We sincerely couldn't make this without you, so we appreciate your support. If you've been watching and enjoy the show yourself and would like to perhaps support us on Patreon, you can find the link in the description below. But for now, close your eyes, make yourselves comfortable, and join us where the kingdom sleeps. Sopros is a place of many worlds within a world. So numerous and varied are the places within it. And over towards the western side of the kingdom, near the edge of Sopros, in a region known as Kopfyama, in the midst of this vast, flat plain, almost featureless moorland, hundreds and hundreds of miles wide, somewhere near the base of the towering mountain upon which sits the royal castle of Sopros. Just near this place you will find somewhere unlike anywhere else in the realm. In the midst of this plain, there is an enormous circular walled city, almost 100 miles in width. And it is covered in miles and miles of gleaming white Brightstone facade, with these huge periodic towers, atop which are these gleaming golden domed cupolas. And this site looks quite surreal amongst the comparative barrenness of the surrounding land, with that mounting against its backdrop and that royal castle Sopros looming over it in the far, far distance. This place is known as Kopfyama Citadel, the home of the Archwall of the Guardians Guild, and the last great bastion for the citizens of Sopros, being built not long after the last Great War, as an emergency stronghold for the entire kingdom in the event of some great global catastrophe. However, this catastrophe, since its building, has not come. And so the city has become a great, thriving metropolis and a centre of innovation, where its residents have lived in relative comfort and great peace, but also some isolation, feeling decidedly separate from the wider world. And as we fly over the walls of the Kopfyama Citadel, and we glide across its landscape to take a look inside, we'll see quickly why this is. Because within this huge arena made up of individually ringed districts, we can see large, sprawling, man-made forests and lakes and farmlands on the outside. We can see neat and modern-looking residential areas, impressive built-up and bustling cities, flashing with Brightstone technology. As we get closer to its centre, and as we get right to the centre of the Citadel, we will find Fort Owari, the central castle of defence for this great city, and the house of the Archel of the Guardians Guild, where young apprentices from across the kingdom will come to take their years of training before they are shipped out back into the wider kingdom to protect where needs protecting. And if we drift down from the evening sky, swoop into this built-up city area with its tall stone and wood buildings that are cramped next to each other, and their narrow but long, flat, stone-paved streets with these sparkling lanterns that line each way, and glowing lights from the many varied buildings. We can come all the way down to a particular 3-storied apartment building, and if we poke into the top window of that apartment building, we'll see a humble abode, a small little office area, and inside we will see Hiram working away at his desk. Brandon, would you like to now describe Hiram, how we're seeing him, and also what we might be seeing as we look upon his desk as he works?
Hiram is a middle-aged, stocky, kind of stone blue, grey-skinned Dwrgar, with hair that maybe once was more of a fiery red, now faded to auburn with flecks of grey. And he is flicking through the notes from his day's work at the guild and is organizing them into his many drawers and desk trays, meticulously catalogued, with the odd sigh here and there. And as his satchel is getting close to empty, he absent-mindedly glances towards the window, and his hand reaches for a little spinning top on his desk that he sends spiraling across the desk briefly, before he takes another sigh and puts the last of his papers away, glancing down at a note that he had forgotten amongst some of the many writings on his desk that has a shimmer of iridescence to the ink. As he pulls it from behind some other papers, he turns it in the light and sees that the image of a basic little star, almost animated as it turns, crashes down on a vaguely basic drawn mountaintop, a little of snow, reminiscent of his Brightstone home. Puts it back down and rises, walks to his north-facing window and laments for the umpteenth time that he was allocated an apartment with a view of only the central Citadel. And begins to turn his mind to getting some food, perhaps.
As Hiram goes through this process of putting away his notes, taking those deep sighs that relieve the stresses of the day from himself, and turns his mind towards procuring some sustenance for the evening, he will suddenly hear a knock at the door.
Hiram wasn't expecting company this evening, but with some curiosity, goes to his door and before opening, calls out, "Hello?"
"Hello?" from behind the door. I don't mean to disturb."
He unlatches the door and opens it, maybe 6 inches or so, to glance through at whoever's in the hallway.
As you just creak open that door, slightly ajar, to look through, in front of you you'll see someone you recognize, but not by name. This is the woman, one of several people within a family that live in the apartment below you. Someone you will have seen in passing many times, though their comings and goings seem to be more during the middle of the day, and you, as someone who works late into the nights, don't often come across them, and conversation has been sparse. But nonetheless, you recognize this woman as her eyes look to you quite wide, with a small but warm smile on her face. "Oh, hello, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb,
That's okay, is everything okay?
Oh, yes, well, no, we're not sure. I don't believe we've properly met before. I've seen you a few times in the building. I'm Lilora. I live downstairs."
Hello, Laura.
Lilora.
Lilora, sorry. Hiram hesitantly pulls the door open more. Hiram To'om. What can I do for you?
Hi, Hiram. Yes, well, I've come upstairs because, have you noticed a bit of a rattling or something in the water pipe?
Oh, I can't say I've run the water since I got here. I was just about to put together some food.
Oh, well, it's been a bit on and off, really. It's a bit difficult to pin down. Well, it hasn't really seemed to cause any problems, but, well, it's a pinch unusual. Just wondering if you heard it too, or whether it was just something going on for us.
I can't say that I have, but, Hiram looks towards his kitchen.
What do we see when we look over at his kitchen?
His kitchen is, it's clean, like almost pristine, but, closer inspection would show that that's probably because of lack of use rather than meticulous and very particular cleaning of the kitchen. Hiram, in that moment, thinks of the lack of food that he has actually even stocked the kitchen with. And looking at this woman, he, perhaps against what he feels would be his better judgment, decides to offer some help. If it's causing you some worry, I am something of a handyman. I'd be happy to take a look.
Certainly, yeah, that would be helpful, thanks. So, yeah, we don't know much about these things, so yeah, it would be good to get some reassurance, at least that the water isn't going to burst out on us or anything.
That would be unfortunate. You live...
Just downstairs, yeah.
Downstairs. Yeah, let me change my shoes, and I'll be right down.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, thanks.
Wait here. I don't know which flat is yours now. Wait
sure.
here. I'll be right back. And Hiram goes to his bedroom and removes his very well polished and kept brogues and glances through his shoe cupboard, where, almost to his disappointment, he realizes he has only other forms of very ornate dress shoes to wear, and is immediately regretting having offered to do some plumbing. But takes what he considers to be his least precious pair of dress shoes and puts them on, also lamenting that it might even look like he hasn't changed his shoes when he goes back out to this neighbour of his, ties them, straightens his waistcoat, and bracing himself, walks back to the front door.
Greeted by Lilora wringing her hands, looking to you expectantly, eyes darting down to your feet. Oh, did you not want to change your shoes?
No, it's fine. Lilora was,
yeah.
Lead the way.
Of course. And as she makes her way down that short step of stairs, oh, it really is very kind of you to help us out.
It's, the least I could do.
Oh, sorry it's taken us so long to say hello, really. You've been here a little while, haven't you now?
Almost a year, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah, nearly that. Well, we should be more familiar, eh? We're neighbours.
Yeah, I work a lot, so...
Yeah, we notice you always come in late, don't you?
Yes, I enjoy my work. It keeps me plenty busy, yes.
What'd you say you do?
I'm posted in the Guardians Guild at the moment, but I am member of the Constructors Guild.
Oh, you must be very smart then. I'm glad we've got you helping us out.
I will do my best.
Lovely. Thank you. Do excuse the mess. As she just approaches her door, opens it up wide. As soon as the door is opened, you are greeted with two things. The cacophony of sound from two young children who are at once playing and fighting on the carpet in front of Hiram. And two, this wonderful smell of the dinner that they are cooking for that evening. Roll me a constitution check, please.
That is 22.
Hiram smells this and is reminded of some of the more delicious things he's eaten in his life. It certainly makes dinner palpable in his mind, but doesn't affect his hunger in any way. He's not hindered by this or made weak by this beautiful aroma, though he can acknowledge that it is a great smell coming through his nostrils. Come in, please. Boys, could you stop, please? Go get to your room. Again, you hear this, wah, and the couple of kids just sort of look over to you, not giving you too much notice, and kind of bundle screaming into their bedrooms, still making much of the same noise. Come on through, just here. And you'll notice that the layout of this flat is very much the same as yours, although perhaps a little bit more unkempt. There are things scattered around on the sides. Definitely not as pristinely kept as Hiram's, but the sink and all of the amenities are in roughly the same place that they are upstairs in your apartment. It's it's sort of just under the basin, really. And there's this bare sort of like basin that is attached directly to the wall with a pipe directly running into the ground that is exposed, and you can see. And you can see, well, I don't even need to turn the tap on, but I can't hear it right now, but I swear, occasionally you just hear this sort of like rattling.
How long have you lived here? When did the rattling start?
Well, to be honest, we're not quite sure. At first, I think we thought it was something else. It's been, could be a few months, to be honest, but we never really took much notice of it until we really began to notice it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, of course. Perhaps I should just take a look.
Sure.
Hiram approaches and turns on the faucet and listens closely, trying to see what sound he hears and perhaps where in the mechanism it's coming from.
Sure. Roll me an investigation check, please.
That is a 16.
With a 16, Hiram will turn on the faucet, and water seems to be running from it in exactly the way he would expect. Doesn't quite hear anything like what Delora was describing. But after checking and closing the faucet once again, just then, begins to hear this definite rumbling, and it appears that the sound is coming from the pipe that leads into the wall. And this, Hiram would assume, is part of a connecting pipe that perhaps runs through all the apartments, because this sound is coming from the wall in front of the basin. So he would presume that this is coming from a pipe inside the wall. Though precisely where the sound is coming from, how it's resonating to that pipe, he couldn't quite tell. As best as he can say is that it's behind the wall somewhere.
I see what you mean. You haven't noticed any changes in water pressure, or?
No. As far as I can tell, it's all working as it normally does. It's just a bit of a funny noise, really. It's probably nothing. I just wanted to be sure that the water wasn't going to burst out or anything. That's the last thing we need.
Yes, that, as I said, would be unfortunate. I'm afraid the sound appears to be coming from the pipes within the wall, and without some rather intrusive investigation, it may prove difficult to fully diagnose. Perhaps we could contact is... I haven't had any need. Is there a maintenance team for the building, or...?
Oh, yeah, there is. I can get in touch with the landlord, and I'm sure they'll send someone over to figure it out. Just as long as you think that there won't be any trouble. Do you think? For now?
And Hiram turns back to the faucet in the wall and wants to just double check that there aren't any damp spots on the wall or anywhere that it looks like there's a leak, or any signs of, anomalies in the structure there.
Sure. Without a roll, Hiram would pretty clearly be able to see that it looks dry. There doesn't look like any bulging. It looks very much like his apartment upstairs, and as he would expect it to look if everything was okay.
I don't expect that there is going to be any imminent disaster.
Sure. Okay, that's good. Yeah. I'll just get in touch with the landlord tomorrow. Then I'm sure they'll come and have a look.
And when I go back upstairs, I will check my faucet as well. And if there is a similar sound, I will also contact the landlord, and together, I'm sure we can encourage swifter action.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Of course.
That's another benefit of us neighbours getting to know each other, eh?
Indeed.
Would you maybe like to stay? We've got some food here. If you want.
Oh, I wouldn't want to intrude.
As you say these words, one of the children from the other room comes running out, chased by their younger brother. And you don't quite notice with the swiftness that they come through. Roll me a dexterity saving throw.
That's an 18.
An 18. Just in the corner of your eye, you manage to clock that this almost projectile of a child is coming directly into your waist, and you can happily sort of step aside just before they end up bundling towards you.
Oh, hello, boys.
As Lilora scolds the children. Oh, mind where you're going, please. And one of the little boys looks up to you as you speak to them, and then looks down to your shoes. Why are your shoes so shiny?
Oh,
Boy, that's not a polite question to be asking someone.
No, it's fine. I like to keep my feet clean. Yes.
Oh. All right. And he just runs in a circle around you back into his room. I'm sorry about them,
no,
boys.
It's fine. You live just with your two boys?
Yes, I do. I did have a partner some time ago.
I don't mean to again intrude.
No, it's okay. It's fine. No, it was a long time ago now. Well, if you're sure I can't encourage you to stay, I thank you for coming. It's very kind of you.
Hiram looks towards the kitchen and the food cooking, but feels that he has missed his window to politely acquiesce, and will begrudgingly accept his fate, and of course, and if there's anything else if I can help in any other way, don't hesitate to knock again.
That's real good of you. I appreciate it. I'm glad we have met.
As am I, Lilora. Good night.
Good night. And she courteously waves her hand towards the door, opening it for you.
Goodbye, boys.
You just hear some barely audible scrambling and screaming, which you assume is not in your direction. And the door is closed behind you.
Feeling his hunger anew, but also curious about that noise, his curiosity overcomes his hunger. He thinks about maybe going to get some food at a restaurant or something nearby, and decides to head back upstairs to just turn on his water faucet and check if he has a similar result.
Sure. So it doesn't take Hiram long to take the journey back upstairs and head into his apartment again to head over to his comparatively spotless sink. Roll me an investigation, please.
It's a nat 20 plus 6 for investigation.
And with a 26 in total, Hiram arrives at the sink and doesn't need to turn it on before he can already hear, quite subtle but distinctly, this rumbling. It sounds like rattling against the pipe, as if there were almost a small hammer beating against the pipe. And he can hear decidedly that it is also coming from the wall behind the sink, and that it is specifically in the center of the wall. And he can interpret from what he heard downstairs that the rattling that Lilora heard was in fact coming from your apartment, the pipe above. The noise is coming from your pipes. And it is something that is hitting against the pipe on the other side of the wall.
Hiram eyes the sink in the wall and looks down at his shoes, decides to take them off and put them away in his room before he comes back and begins to consider if there's a way that he might be able to turn off his water supply and isolate his pipes, and is even considering if there's a way that he might be able to excavate the wall slightly to have a look at what on earth might be making this noise. And he's considering what tools he might have with him in his apartment. He decides to maybe just try and remove the faucet and look in there if he can isolate his water supply. But he's conscious that he may get wet, hence his shoes being put away.
I think Hiram would know exactly how to isolate the water in his apartment. There is a stopcock located just in the hallway outside that he can switch, and it will turn off the water entirely to his building, which he does. How familiar specifically with plumbing? How much plumbing would Hiram have done in the past, do you think?
Hiram is not a plumber. He is familiar with the mechanical functioning of materials and the basic physics of pumps and water flow, but is not particularly experienced when working with real plumbed-in pipes and water flow. But I think he would expect his engineering intuition to inform his expectations.
Sure. And does he keep appropriate tools in his apartment to be executing such a job?
I think the tools that he would have in his apartment are probably smaller and more for like precision work than working with large pipes and the like. But he'd certainly have something like pliers, something like screwdrivers, and maybe some small clamps to hold things in place. Yeah, but certainly nothing like a power tool.
Well, given that, roll me an Arcana check, please.
That's a 25.
Incredible. Hiram has zero difficulty using the tools at his disposal to remove the faucet from the sink, exposing the pipe that leads down, that he can clearly see runs into the wall. As he does so, it almost opens up the resonance of the sound that he's hearing behind the wall, and makes that sort of like vague rumbling, rattling a little clearer and a little sharper. And with a 25, Bram can just hear what he believes to be a sound he's quite familiar with, and that is this ringing, a gentle, resonant sound that small Brightstone devices make.
Hiram glances around his apartment and wonders if there's anywhere else in his apartment that any similar noises are coming from at all. As he gets a sense that just from the sound, perhaps this device is there for observing him. Not sure if it's just paranoia, but he's suddenly got a sense that maybe he's being watched and wants to look around his apartment quickly for any other signs that might indicate that.
Roll me an investigation then, please.
It's a 14.
With a 14, Hiram begins to scour his apartment in each of the individual rooms to keep his ear out and see if he can hear the same noise anywhere else. After a little while of remaining still, trying to listen out, nothing similar comes to the ear. And then he returns to the kitchen. You'll notice that the resonant sound he heard before has stopped.
I think upon realizing that the sound has stopped, he would rush to the faucet and try and remember exactly where on the wall it was coming from, and is going to take the sturdiest, sharpest tool he has and begin trying to hammer into the wall to find ideally the pipe and perhaps this artifact itself, or at least where it was and any evidence of its placement.
Okay. Go on, roll me a history check. just to see how well he can remember the exact location of the sound.
That's also a 14.
That would absolutely be enough to get a pretty bang-on remembrance of where he felt that sound was coming from behind the wall, as you rolled so high before. Hiram pinpoints it fairly accurately, taking that tool to the sort of almost wattled daub, kind of like a mesh that is the wall, caving it in slightly to the hollow behind where the pipes lay, making a huge knock inside of it and creating a hole big enough to see what's going on behind. When he does so, you will see the pipe upon which the noise is being made. And he will see attached to one of the beams that keeps the structure of the wall start on the inside is wrapped with rope. A small pole about the size of his hand, on top of which sits a smooth, rounded, slightly glowing Brightstone device with one prominent engineering glyph scribed in the front of it. And what Hiram can see is that part of the rope that holds it to the stud has just worn away, and the pole it sits on has moved slightly, as such that it is now leaning against the pipe and causing this noise.
Hiram would, before reaching out to interact with it at all, want to examine the glyph to see if there is any potential danger, knowing intimately the kind of power that Brightstone with the right glyphs can output and the possibilities of injury that can be involved.
Roll me an Arcana check with advantage, being so accomplished.
Okay, thank goodness. The first roll was a 3, the second was an 11 plus 6, so 17.
Fantastic. With a 17, Hiram can easily identify this as a safe glyph. But at the same time, easily identify it as a sending device. One that communicates movement and would be able to do so through a wall.
Would Hiram know if that glyph would also communicate sound?
You rolled a 17. On a 17, it would be the shape of the glyph that would communicate that, and Hiram is an accomplished engineer, able to read these things, and unless it was particularly complex or innovative, he would struggle. But in this case it is not, and he can know with certainty that it simply communicates movement in front of it.
Hiram would reach into this hole in the wall, assuming it's large enough that he could fit his hand. If not, he might use a tool and attempt to pry it out of position.
I think he could do that quite easily. And releases it. Small tug from that rope that wraps it around the stud. And, yes, holds it in front of himself in the pliers.
Still holding it in the pliers, he looks at the new hole he has produced in his own wall and glances at any of the any of the furnishings hanging on the wall, considering how he may disguise it sometime in the near future, but decides against prioritizing that in this moment and takes this small Brightstone artifact to his desk and is going to examine it for any signs, if any, of its origin. Does he recognize it as a tool that is commonly used by the Guardians Guild, or does it look like it's from some other use or application of Brightstone?
Roll me a history check.
That is a 17.
17. And so this wouldn't be necessarily knowledge of the engineering of this device. Hiram fairly well understands what this thing is, but looking into who may have made it or where it may have come from, if a producer or a manufacturer would like for someone to know if they'd made it, they would definitely attach a hallmark. This device does not appear to have any hallmark on it. And with a 17, you could at least be sure that this wasn't a run-of-the-mill production line manufactured sending device of the Constructors Guild that might just be simply made and purchased, and might suspect that this was made purposefully and independently. But because there are no hallmarks, and because it is fairly well made, it looks a good piece of engineering, there is no way to know where it's come from.
Hiram looks around his apartment, again feeling that almost foreboding sense of being observed, even realizing that now this device may still be reporting the movement in his apartment to some unknown observer. He wouldn't want to do away with it, but would Hiram know of any way of storing this device in such a way that it would obscure its ability to monitor his movements?
Roll me an Arcana check.
24.
He certainly would. Although it requires a little thinking, because without directly tinkering with the device, he needs to think of a way that he can occlude its abilities. And the only way he knows how to do this directly is to put unadulterated, raw Brightstone in front or around it. And without having the receiving device, he couldn't quite know how effective that was. But he knows that if you place raw Brightstone, unengineered Brightstone, near a device of this nature, it will, in some way at least, occlude its abilities to work.
As he comes to that realization, he again looks about his office, and I don't think he has any certainly large raw Brightstone about his office, but his thoughts turn to his private project is Brightstone infused inks that he's been using for his animated illustrations. And he looks at the object and looks at the size of one of his inkwells. Would this device fit through the mouth of his inkwell? And could he submerge it in the ink?
The device looks as though it is just about big enough to be submerged in his inkwell, yes.
He pulls out a quill and drops it into the Brightstone infused ink, not certain that it will fully obscure, but hoping that it affords him some level of privacy. Would stopper the inkwell, and feeling, even with it hopefully obscured, quite uncomfortable in his own apartment right now, decides that he wants to get out of there as quickly as possible. He retrieves his satchel from his desk and starts throwing the inkwell and a few other bits and pieces of his tools. Grabs the spinning top from his desk, puts on a nicer pair of shoes, and taking one last glance around his apartment, particularly at his newly excavated kitchen wall, and decides he's going to leave it as it is for now. Not certain of where he's going, heads for the stairwell. And as he's passing the entrance to the hallway for the second floor, he thinks of Lilora and the boys. And feeling too paranoid that he might be introducing some strange danger to them were he to go back, continues down the stairs and out onto the street, thinking where he might get something to eat, but also where he might go that anyone who knows anything about him might not expect him to go. And he thinks back to a recommendation he was given by his driver of a hub. Can't quite remember the name. He knows that it's somewhere nearby.
You can roll a history check for the memory on that.
It's a 22.
Incredible rolls this session. You need to give some of that luck to Tom and To'om, I think. The 22. You'll remember, in fact, that your chauffeur handed you a piece of paper that you still hold in your jacket pocket, with the name of this pub written down in it. And as you remove that from your inside pocket, you can see the words, Hinato's Ear.
And I think Hiram, not knowing immediately what direction that's in, just starts to walk and is hoping to bump into someone who looks local and will ask after this establishment.
Sure, roll me an investigation check as you walk through these city streets.
That's a 19.
Incredible. Heading straight into the street, these fairly narrow streets with the city buildings tall above you and cramped together, the evening dimming now into night, and the lamps that line the street lighting your way. Streets are still relatively bustling at this time, being a big city with many sights, many different kinds of people out and enjoying themselves. It's not long before you run into someone who looks decidedly local, just outside the stoop of their own apartment, with a rudimentary hay brush sweeping it.
Excuse me. I'm not from around here. I'm looking for Hinatu's ear.
Yes, you are.
Could you...
You are around from here. And yeah.
Well,
I see you all the time.
I have been staying here for some time, but I haven't...
Nearly a year. Hinatu's here. Yeah. Not really the kind of place I think you'd want to go. Doesn't seem like you so much. Roll me an insight check, please. 16. You are standing in front of an elderly Dwrgar gentleman with a bit of a hunched back. He's wearing quite simple, slightly dirty leather clothes. On a 16, you're beginning to see a little twinkle in his eye. You may start to believe he is just kind of ruffling your feathers a little bit rather than being intentionally angry and obtuse.
I was recommended it by a friend of mine who said the food was good.
Well, it is.
I'm glad that his account is corroborated. Is it nearby?
As it happens, it is. I would have thought someone who'd walk these streets quite regularly might know, but I suppose you're in that long Brightstone tube thing most of the time, aren't you? Driving around.
I like to frequent some of the parks around here, but yes, when traveling I tend to be in the vehicle. I don't mean to intrude, but have you been watching me?
He has quite a grin on his face as he looks down and shakes his head a little bit when you say this. I suppose you could say that. Well, I've lived here for quite some time, here in this city. I live a simple life. I'm out here often and, well, let's say perhaps our schedules line up quite a bit. And, I notice things day to day. I see the changing of places and people. So yes, I suppose I've been watching you, but not any more than anyone else who takes an interest in their community. I suppose that's why you probably wouldn't have seen me, eh?
What's your name?
I'm Zilch, my friend. And you?
Well, Zilch, I wonder if you already know.
I've been watching you, my friend, but not that closely.
Does Hiram get any sense that he is hiding anything as he says that?
Roll me an insight check.
It's only a 7.
Hiram, from this man's countenance, that little twinkle in his eye from before, feels that he is just a bit of a quirky local.
Forgive me, Zilch, I'm a little rattled this evening. I'm looking for somewhere hearty and safe to relax.
Aye. And he bends on one knee slightly, leaning down to point his arm outstretched down the street. 2 blocks that way. 3 blocks to your left. You're gonna see a small wooden carved sign. Inatu's ear. Best food in the city. And, well, I don't know if you call it safe, but if you're looking for a place to blend into the crowd, I'm sure you'll do fine there.
Thank you, Zilch. The name is Hiram. Hiram To'om.
To'om. Like the tractor.
Yes,
Sure you get that all the time.
quite often. I'm sure I'll see you again.
Now we've met, I'm sure you will. Don't be a stranger.
I won't. And Hiram will turn and take the directions he has been given, walking at a slightly faster than his natural pace, but feeling more and more apprehensive about every decision he is making right now, feeling decidedly not encouraged by Zilch's description of Inatu's ear. With no alternative coming to mind, soldiers on.
And with that apprehension in his heart and mind, but yet a very definitive location he'll be making his way to this evening, he puts one deliberate, quick-stepped foot in front of the other as he makes his way through the city lights of Kopfyama Citadel.